What's up, everyone? Mr. JKL here for another Vintage Cube draft. Have about 30 seconds to make our picks, so I'll run through the options a little bit quickly. No power, which is unfortunate. Um, there's a Baleful Strix, there's a Goblin Guide, Silverblade Paladin's a really good mono white card, and then Tolarian Academy. I think I'm gonna go with Tolarian Academy. It's probably the most powerful card. Don't want to do any Goblin Guide things, so I'll take the Academy. Hope to wheel Gilded Lotus, something like that, perhaps. Usually early on, I just like to take very powerful cards and go from there. If I had taken the Goblin Guide, I probably would have taken Koth. So what are we gonna take here? We've got Cryptic Command, which is very good with Tolarian Academy. Makes you a bunch of blue. Um, so I'm thinking Cryptic Command. Walking Ballista is a super strong card with Academy. Obviously, won a lot of artifacts. Or do we want to take an Imperial Seal? Not really looking at Imperial Seal. Also could draft a Sweet Birthing Pod deck, but that doesn't really go with Tolarian Academy. I think I'll take the Cryptic Command and go from there. Okay, so this would take us down the path of some sort of mono blue artifact deck, perhaps. You never know. What do we want to do here? Looking at a few options, there's a Thran Dynamo, which is a very good artifact card. There's a Yawgmoth's Will. Don't really see ourselves doing the Yawgmoth's Will thing. Or there's an Everflowing Chalice, which is just another good artifact. Or, Gaia's Cradle is very good in the mono green deck. I think we're gonna take a Thran Dynamo. I kind of like the idea of having a nice good Thran Dynamo in our deck. Maybe wheel the Everflowing Chalice. If Yawgmoth's Will wheels, perhaps we will do something with that. Now we have some interesting options. There's a Dig Through Time. I do like Dig Through Time, but this does not seem like a deck that's going to get a ton of cards in its graveyard. There's a Vendilion Clique, which I really like. There's also Mindslaver, and I saw an Academy Ruins in the first pack we opened, and that seems like a card that would wheel. And I'm definitely interested in some sort of Mindslaver Academy Ruins lock. I think that the right pick is probably Vendilion Clique, but I kind of want to draft some sort of sweet Mindslaver deck, so I'm going to take the Mindslaver and go from there. All right, so love me an Oracle of Moldiah. Oracle is awesome. There's Chrome Mox, which is really good with Tolarian Academy, and just ramping out some stuff. And then there's like Through the Breaching a Woodfall Primus. I guess that's not incredible, but pretty decent. I guess Through the Breach is the sacrifice one, so that's really good. Through the Breaching Woodfall Primus. There's also like Shallow Grave, which I think exile, so not as good with the Woodfall Primus. Nevertheless, we could take a Deceiver Exarch if we wanted to do a twin thing. I think I'm just going to take Chrome Mox. It's between that and Oracle, and maybe Ravages. Ravages is obviously really good. But I think I want to take Chrome Mox here. I just don't know if we're going to go green. Right now we're solidly blue, and that's about it. I like Commit to Memory. I think it's a really good card, and I like it with what we have. And then Draw 7's really good when you have cards like Chrome Mox, which you can cast cheap, and then you can eventually refill your hand with the memory part of Commit to Memory. I couldn't remember it for a second. Gonna take Time Warp here. Batterskull is like an artifact card. Time Warp just allows you to do some sneaky things, and I like to have access to a Time Warp here. We'll find some cheap artifacts, hopefully. What do we want to take here when faced with no artifacts and no blue cards? It's a true dilemma. Could take an Eternal Witness. We could take a Regrowth, Disenchant. Those are some options. Gideon is also an option. I think right now we'll take Regrowth. My reasoning is perhaps we'll dabble into green, and Regrowth can allow us to get back a Time Warp, or if we're lucky, a Time Walk. Gonna take Gilded Lotus here. That was what I was hoping to wheel. I think Academy Ruins did not wheel, which is very surprising. I don't know who would have taken the Academy Ruins, but it's not necessary to make our deck awesome. I think I'll just take the land here. Slide that into our deck. Don't really think we're going to play red, but you never know. Thassa's Oracle. That could be cool. Maybe there's some cool things we can do with the Thassa's Oracle. The other option would be Kark or something. I'll take Thassa's Oracle. You never know how you can win a game with Thassa's Oracle, but it sounds kind of cool. Looking for some draw sevens and such. Would like a Golos perhaps to find our Tolarian Academy. Imperial Recruiter if we end up being twin, perhaps. Not sure about that either. Yeah, these sort of mono blue artifact decks are pretty sweet to draft and very fun. For some reason, I have the Cryptic Command in the other 4-drop slots. I just know I'm going to be casting it early when I get like a Baral. So it's really a 3-drop. Do I want to take a Sword or a Lumbering Falls? I think, or Avalanche Rider is even a consideration. I actually kind of like Avalanche Riders. If we end up being like blue-red, because I already have a Spirebluff Canal, that's why I took the Avalanche Riders. Destroying their lands could be something that we're interested in. I'll take an Amaria's Call. And what do we got last? Oh, let's move this back over to the 4-drops. What do we want to open? Black Lotus. I think Sol Ring would actually be the best card for this deck, certainly. It's like a mini Black Lotus that stays around. I will take an Ancestral Recall. Wow. Okay, so there's a lot of great cards here. If I didn't take Ancestral Recall, I would be taking the Upheaval. Upheaval is one of the most busted cards for this deck, but I have to take Ancestral Recall. What is nice about this pack is that there are 3 cards that I would love to wheel. Would be awesome in our deck. So Seagate Stormcaller obviously is great with Ancestral Recall. Then Upheaval and Golos are both awesome. Golos finding Tolarian Academy is just a huge game. But the raw power of Ancestral Recall is too much to pass up. Now I can take Mox Pearl, which is obviously great, and what I would like for this deck. Otherwise, I'd be taking, probably take the Wheel of Fortune, honestly. Well, yeah, I probably would. It's a cheap draw 7, which is really good. There's also a Metamorph, which is a nice card. There's a Consecrated Sphinx. A Consecrated Sphinx is also interesting, but I'm going to take the Mox. Now we have some interesting options, like a Force of Negation, a Monastery Mentor I do like, but not here. Lodestone Golem is awesome. We don't have any super cheap artifact mana right now, which is kind of disappointing. Let's get these red cards out of here for now. I don't really think we're doing the red thing yet. We haven't exactly figured out what our plan is yet, but we need more cheap artifacts. I actually think I'm going to take the Force of Negation. It's a little less replaceable. It's really good with like Ancestral Recall. Just when you have card advantage, like getting a mana advantage is also awesome. And my hope is that either Lodestone Golem or Phyrexian Revoker will wheel. Mystical Tutor is also good for getting Ancestral, but that's not incredible. Now I can take a Mirror Battlesphere, which would be a good artifact for our deck. Right now we don't have any like Tinkers. Our best way to cheat on mana is Tolarian Academy. The other option is just taking Gitaxian Probe, which I think is probably fine under the assumption that the Battlesphere will wheel. Having Gitaxian Probe seems really good. Is there anything else that we could consider? Don't think so. It's really between the Mirror Battlesphere and the Gitaxian Probe. I'll just take the cheap card. When in doubt, take the cheaper card. Do like me a 1,000-Year Storm. Are we a 1,000-Year Storm deck? I don't really think so. I think I just want to take Spell Pierce. Having some more interactive cards is always great. There's the Baral. Do we want Baral? Or do we... Expansion Explosion. That's something to do with a ton of mana if we want to play red. And even not, we can like expansion our Ancestral Recall, 3 mana, draw 6. That sounds pretty good. Um, Otherwise, taking Baral. How many spells do we have? We have a few spells that cheapens. I think I'm going to take the Expansion Explosion. I kind of like some of the things that could be doing. Are we a Tezzeret deck? Tezzeret gets a 3-cost artifact or a 4-cost artifact. We can get a Thran Dynamo, which is pretty good. I think this might be a Tezzeret deck. Otherwise we're taking like Treasure Cruise, which doesn't seem that great in this deck. Let's play the Tezzeret. I like that. Ooh, gonna take one of these Signets. Which one is better for us? Red white or green white? They're both pretty off color. I think Boros Signet is slightly better. There's obviously these really powerful red cards, but we need more cheap artifacts for our Tolarian Academy. So I think I want to take Boros Signet. More like, yeah, I get definitely the red is good with Expansion Explosion. So we'll take that. Ooh, the Upheaval Wheel. That's the greatest win condition we could ask for. It makes like Gilded Lotus and Thran Dynamo awesome. We'll take the Upheaval. We'll be very happy to play it. And we get a Miscalc, which is some more cheap interaction. I'll play a Mystical Tutor. I can Mystical for my Ancestral, and that's still pretty good. Or you can Mystical for Upheaval. Yeah, Mystical is great in this deck. Really, our question is, I don't really think we're playing the red right now. I could still play the expansion, just as copying spells, but I don't know about that. Yorion, the Sky Nomad. What can I blink? It's permanents, right? Any number of non-land permanents I control. Don't really think I'm splashing white for Ajani Vengeant, but I guess I'm not going to play Yorion, so maybe the Adani could get in there. 1,000-Year Storm, I'll take for... because I like it. Ooh, Baral. I might play Baral. Baral's good. Baral's just a cheap card that makes some of my powerful spells a little less expensive. Char also has some uses. Oh, get the Char out of here. Alright, I do like Remand a lot, but I think this is actually a Library of Alexandria deck. Library's really, really good when you have cheap cards, like Spell Pierce, Moxes. Chrome Mox is also really, really good with Library of Alexandria. And I do like Remand a lot. Remand's awesome. I really like Karakas a lot, too. It just deals with a lot of shenanigans. But I'm going to take Library. This is the deck that wants Library of Alexandria. Really want some more cheap artifacts, so hopefully we can pick those up. I don't think we're playing the red right now. We just have enough good cards that we don't need to. So yeah, so we definitely want cheaper artifacts and maybe a few more ways to finish the game. Tezzeret's a good finisher, actually. Oko Thief of Crowns is a really strong card. It's gonna be hard to get me to pass an Oko. How are we gonna play Oko? We have a Gilded Lotus. We have a Regrowth. Regrowth on Ancestral's also good. Snapcaster Ancestral's really good. Do we want to take the Snapcaster, which probably... Snapcaster is awesome in this deck. Mystical, Spell Pierce, Ancestral, Gitaxian Probe, Miscalculation. Or do we want to take Oko and try to play green? Which wouldn't be too hard, and Oko is really good. I think I want to take Oko. I think the upside on Oko is good enough. That's very difficult, though. We can play, like, Regrowth. That's the only green card we get. Do we want to take the Oko or the Snapcaster? Well, alright, I'll take the disciplined Snapcaster pick. It's a tough pick, but Snapcaster, Ancestral, Mystical, all of this stuff is just powerful enough that I don't think I need to delve into a different color for the Oko. That's very difficult. I'm not sure. Oko is that good that it makes the pick difficult, so I'm super not sure about the pick. Now I can take a Golgari Signet or a Treachery. Treachery is awesome. Or Ancestral Vision. The Signet's not super good. I mean, it's really good with Tolarian Academy. But Treachery is the kind of interaction that I think I want in this deck. And I think that the Golgari Signet could wheel. It's weak enough that it could. Oh, wow, okay. There's a lot of stuff going on in this pack because there's a tropical island, which would have been great had we taken Oko. Although we don't have any fetch lands, so that does make it a little less great. There's Ancient Tomb, which is really, really strong just as a land that taps for 2. And then there's also a Dak Faden, which is another awesome card if we wanted to play red. Do we want to play red? We have a Boros Signet and a Gilded Lotus, so the Boros Signet taps for red. Do we want to take... I think we want... Dak Faden's like almost as good as Oko. It's not as good. And then we can like play Expansion Explosion, play a few mountains. Yeah, I'm going to take Dak here. Alright, what am I taking now? Sower of Temptation. It's like Treachery. Now, I mean, yeah, it's almost as good as Treachery. So it's makes me regret not taking the other Signet. Although that Signet wouldn't have helped cast my Dak, so there is that. Gilded Goose works with Tolarian Academy. Gonna take Sower. Yeah, there's nothing really else I want to take here. Alright, so what do I want to take here? There's a Venser, which I do like. Probably gonna take Venser. Relic of Progenitus, just as a cheap artifact for Tolarian Academy. And then the other consideration would be Soulfire Grandmaster, which is a combo with Time Warp, but you need 9 mana, which is way too expensive. You only need 6 if you have Time Walk. But 8 mana if you have Baral. And this deck can generate a lot of mana, but I think I'll probably just take Venser. Venser's a good piece of interaction. Gruul Signet, that's really good for our deck. It's another Signet that casts Dak Faden if you have a blue. This one also would have cast Oko. And don't think there's anything else here that I want. Yeah, so we'll take the Signet. Stone Coil, that's interesting. So we could take Stone Coil just as a big play. Stone Coil actually seems kind of good here. Thada Adel is also not bad, but this deck can generate a lot of mana, and Stone Coil is a good way to sink that mana in, I think. It's not as good as Walking Ballista, but I think it's still good enough. Shatterskull Smashing. I guess that depends how many mountains we want to play. Could be... I actually kind of like Shatterskull Smashing here. Charter Course is obviously fine, but Ooh, and a Steam Vents? Yes, that'll be great. The reason I like Shatterskull Smashing is because it also can be discarded to Chrome Mox, which is definitely a relevant play there. Goblin Welder. Ooh, what does that do? Choose so in a graveyard and on the battlefield, I think you can Goblin Welder and Mindslaver lock. I'm gonna take the Steam Vents, but Goblin Welder Mindslaver would be a sweet lock also. I just don't think I need it here. Light up the stage. I guess I'll take a Reclamation Sage. We'll add to sideboard. What else do I? Empty the Warrens. We'll take a Whisperwood for the sideboard. Unburial Rites for the sideboard. And Iona. Iona should not go last pick. That card is awesome. Like, Iona against our deck is instant lose. The only card we can cast would be Shatterskull Smashing and some artifacts. Okay, so what are we at? We're at 26 cards right now. We don't really want to go that heavy in the red. We don't need to play any of these red cards. Oh, and we have the Spire Bluff. I forgot about that. So we can play like one mountain, which will be really good, and then the rest islands. Do we want to play Expansion Explosion? It actually seems like a really good flexible card. I don't hate it. I don't even like Mindslaver. It's not exactly what we don't generate tons and tons of mana. Like 10 mana, and then you don't even like win the game right away. It can not go well. Alright, so I think I'm fine taking out Mindslaver. And I want to play this Expansion Explosion, I think. Yeah. And we have these 2 red signets, so we actually have a decent amount of red sources. Um and then so that's 26, 25, 24, 23. Yeah, seems pretty good. And then we'll play, I think, 1 and 9. We just have the DAC, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have a ton of sources. 14 lands, 15, 16, 17. And we also have like Gitaxian Probe, which cycles. I think that's enough lands. And I think I like how our deck turned out. So this deck is pretty sweet. Um, Snapcaster ended up being better. Not sure if it was the right pick or not. I mean, obviously what happened doesn't hold total influence, but I think our deck is really sweet. This should be a 4-drop over here. And I like the Sower and the Treachery. Tezzeret seems pretty cool. Can snag a Signet and then do some things. And yeah, let's see how this deck performed. We'll see you for round 1. We'll save that. And see you later.